Stitches Pre-Draft. Written by Masked Cat. Read by John the OgichiGame. "Hey, Stitches," Alex whispered from his school desk. Stitches sat at his, deftly threading a needle through purple fabric. "What you making?" Stitches tied off a knot, then looked over to Alex, smiling, and said, "You'll see." Alex shifted in his seat. Okay. A half an hour later, the bell rang, and a mix of all four grades rushed to lunch. Alex popped his head over Stitch's shoulder, trying to look at his creation. Stitches crumpled the fabric in his hands and pressed it to his chest. "In a minute. I gotta put the beans in first." They walked to his locker. Alex watched as Stitches spun the dial and pulled open the metal door. He took out a bag full of plastic pellets and his lunchbox before heading off to the cafeteria with his friend. A few minutes after sitting down, Stitches tied off the final seam and lifted the item up in one hand. Alex looked it over. "A bunny plushie?" Alex asked. What Stitches had created was a dark purple stuffed rabbit with a fluffy little tail. A red heart sewn into its chest, a stitched mouth, and black 4-hole buttons for eyes. "What's it for?" Alex questioned. Stitches closed his eyes and smiled widely, pointing to a freshman. "Oh, Alyssa, I see." Alex grinned. "Good luck with that," he said cheerfully. Stitches stood and nodded, slowly making his way over to Alyssa, and waved to her. She smiled and waved back, but before he got a chance to give her the gift, the bell rang, and everyone got up and started to move towards the door. He was pushed onwards by the mass of people, and by the time most of the people cleared, Alyssa had already disappeared. Alex came up behind him and wrapped his arm around his shoulder. "She'll be here tomorrow. Come on." Stitches shrugged, followed Alex to class. Along the way, Alex saw his girlfriend. He approached her to say hello, overhearing a conversation she was having with a boy named Nathan. He complimented her hair, or something of that nature, and she giggled. Alex looked a bit annoyed. He came up to her and linked his arm around hers, saying, "Come on, Hannah, I have something in my locker to give you." Stitches chuckled on the inside. Jealous? "So how was your day?" Stitch's mother asked him as he piled more spaghetti into his bowl. "It was normal," he responded, heading back to his room. His mother smiled and nodded. Stitches sat on his bed and placed his laptop on his legs. He slurped his sauce-covered noodles, watching videos, waiting for Alex. Eventually, a while after he had finished his dinner, he heard a knock. Stitches slipped on his shoes and swung the door open. Alex motioned him to come with him, as directed. Stitches followed him to the car. "Where are we going?" Stitches inquired. Hannah said she found something interesting in the forest. "Oh, okay." Stitches hopped into the back, while Alex slid into the passenger seat. Hannah put the car into drive and drove to Rockwood Forest. As they were getting out of the car, Stitches questioned, "So, what did you find?" "Well, It's just a cabin, but I found some old stuff in it. I thought you guys might like to check it out," she shrugged. "Just an old house. Does someone live in it?" Alex asked. "No, I don't think anyone would. Everything is broken, and it's overgrown with weeds," Hannah said, leading them deep into the forest. Soon, they reached the decrepit shack. It was made from wood, but it had holes all over, and there didn't seem like there was a safe way to get in. "We could try a window." "They're just holes in the wall at this point." They searched for a place not so high with plant life, then clambered in, making soft thuds as their feet hit the floor. They looked around slowly, walking to the next room, hitting the crunches of broken glass beneath them. "So, what's here?" Alex asked as they walked into the dining room. Hannah meandered over to a painting. She gradually took it off, revealing a boarded-up doorway. "A secret room." Alex and Stitches stared at it silently. "I brought a crowbar." Hannah pulled out the metal stick, handing it to Alex. Alex walked up to the boards, signaling for Hannah and Stitches to back away in case of a flying nail or wooden slab, and pried each groaning board off. Gradually, each board fell to the floor. Breathing heavily, Alex looked down the dark passage, then at Hannah. She nodded, pulling out a flashlight and tossing it to him. Alex flicked it on, then shined it down the stairs to see how far they went. He tested the first stone step, then continued. Hannah and Stitches followed closely behind, glancing back every now and again. At last Alex had found the room at the bottom and shined the light over the walls. It was mostly empty, save for a couch and bed. They crept around, noticing a pile of books beside the couch. "What's the purpose of this room?" Alex puzzled. "There isn't much in it. It doesn't seem to have any hidden things." Stitches added, "Maybe it was just a place to go for quiet or hiding." "You'd think that someone this far out in the forest would be hidden enough," Alex commented, rolling his eyes. He went around the room, sliding his hand gently on the walls. He bent down and wrapped his fingers around a dusty book, grabbed it, flipping it to the title page. "The bricks in the basement?" Alex questioned. "Never heard of that one." Alex set the book down. "We should get going. I have to pick your mother up from the store, since I have her car." Alex nodded, giving the room one last look. "Yeah." Alex had helped his mother load the last of the groceries into the car, and they were now on their way home. He sat in the back seat with Stitches, while his mother sat in the passenger seat and Hannah drove. "So, you two want to go back to investigate the cabin sometime?" Hannah asked. "What's there to investigate? We've already looked over the secret room," Alex replied. Hannah halfway looked back at him. "Yeah, but maybe there's something upstairs, or on the first floor that would indicate why the room—" Stitches suddenly pointed at the street and yelled, "The road!" Hannah's head shot back to the street in an instant. There was a loud noise. Then all was black. Alex's eyelids slowly lifted. His pupils sluggishly moved around the room. Slowly, He came to as he tried to piece together what happened and where he was. He tried lifting his head, finding that it was much too heavy. He glanced down at the IVs in his arm. His brain couldn't understand anything, but neither did it care. In his hazy fog, his eyelids gradually fell until they closed, and he fell back to sleep. Alex's eyes darted open. He observed his surroundings, understanding this time that he was in a hospital. A nurse came with a gauze looking at him, seeming surprised. "You're awake," she said. "Yeah." She walked over to him, starting to do something to his head, then realized that he couldn't see out of his right eye. His hand rushed to it, feeling padding on it. The nurse pulled his hand down and started to replace the covering. "Why is my eye all right?" he asked. "Well, you sustained heavy injuries to it, so it probably won't be able to see again." Alex gaped at her in disbelief, desperately searching her eyes, hoping she'd say it wasn't true. He looked away, staring at the floor, tearing up. "But you also received head damage. You had a very low possibility that you would wake up, just like the others. You're rather lucky to survive at all." Alex gawked at her. "Others?" Alex asked. "Yes, the other people in your car. Do you remember?" Alex squinted, thinking. Mom! Yes! Mom was there, and Stitches! He looked up expectantly at the nurse. "Where are they?" The nurse looked a tad confused for a second, then sad. "Would you mind if I ask a question first?" Alex looked discontent. "I guess not." "Your friend, Stitches, was his... What is his real name?" the nurse interrogated. Stitches. Alex whispered to himself. He sat there for a few minutes, then, contemplating. "Just let me see him," he demanded, getting annoyed. "You can't leave your bed yet. You have medical equipment hooked up to you every which way," the nurse said, writing on a clipboard. "Where's my mom? And Stitches?" Alex asked angrily. The nurse sighed. "Stitches is in no condition to see anyone. He's not even awake yet. And your mother..." Alex raised an aggressive eyebrow at her. "She didn't make it." Alex's eyes suddenly widened, filled with tears. He quickly looked away. "You're lying," he mumbled. The nurse sighed again. "Since you're awake now, we'll have to get you certain therapies to help you recover, physically and mentally. If you're socially acceptable, in a few days you should be able to go back to your regular life. Well, along with going to the therapies, if need be." Alex sat in silence, peering out the window. "We can remove your IV since you're awake now. Then you won't have any more tubes running through you." "What did I need it for anyway?" Alex grumbled. "Nurse Kimber, to room 235. Nurse Kimball to room 235. Look, the doctor will be in soon, and I believe I saw your father in the waiting room, so you'll have some..." "Alex! company. Alex's father stormed in, greeting him in a large embrace. "Oh, Alex, I'm so happy you're okay. The doctors said you probably wouldn't make it, and you had been asleep for so long, and everyone else gave up, but—" he sniffled. "I kept my hopes high." He gripped Alex's hand gently, staring at him with glistening eyes. "I'll just let you two talk," the nurse said, heading out. "Dad?" Alex shook his head. "What happened to me? What happened to Stitches? And Mom? I was in a car crash, but how long have I been out?" "Shh, shh, 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 shh. I'll explain everything. You've been here for just, a few weeks." "A few weeks?" His father held up a finger. Just let me explain. The crash wouldn't have been so bad if the truck that hit you wasn't going so fast. It saw that it was going to make it in time for the green light, so it didn't slow down. Then it barreled into you with enough force to send glass into your head. But it's all good now." He laughed hesitantly. "What about Stitches?" Alex questioned, sounding very concerned. Well, he was on the right side of the car, so much more force hit him and much more glass and such flew on him and—" "Let me see!" Alex yelled angrily, trying to stand. "Calm down, son," his father said, attempting to hold him down. "The doctor still has to give you the good to go, and you still have your IVs in, and now please, settle down." "Is he behaving irrationally?" a calm voice spoke, making Alex's father turn his head, surprised. No, he's just anxious to see his friend. I suppose anyone would be after hearing all of this." "I suppose." The doctor put away his needle. "So, how are you feeling?" "Where's Stitches?" The doctor raised an eyebrow at him. "Is that what you call him?" "Fitting name." "What are you talking about?" Alex demanded. "Look, I'll let you visit your friend if you answer my questions, and let me run some tests." Alex continued glaring at him. "Fine," Alex responded in a low tone. Alex waited for hours as the doctor made sure he was okay. He complied with his demands, though he couldn't answer a few of the questions. Finally, it was over, the doctor nodding. "Well, you seem like you can handle yourself, though you're going to need strengthening your right arm." "Which room is he in?" Alex asked, darting his head this way and that. The doctor sighed. "Follow me." Alex couldn't wait to see his friend. What had happened to him? Was he okay? Oh, he was so excited, bouncing along. He followed the doctor until he was at the room. The doctor opened the door. "He's in." Alex sped, walked past him, smiling, and headed straight for his friend. His feet slowly stopped, eventually coming to a halt. He gulped, stunned. "Stitches?" he questioned. He walked over to him, observing him, seeing so many scars along his body. His hair had been cut down from a bit past shoulder length to just a bit longer than a buzz cut. He recalled hearing them say something about a brain injury, thinking they might have had to shave his head for an operation. He was thin, thinner than before, and paler too. Wait, what do I look like then? Alex slowly made his way to a mirror, shocked to find he was in a similar condition, thinner, paler. and all around just look sickly. I see why they didn't think I would survive. Give it to me straight, Doctor. Is he going to make it? Alex asked, staring at his friend. His ears were only greeted with silence. Doc? He asked, looking around. He went to the door, hearing a conversation, recognizing that it was his father and his doctor. The doctor seemed to be giving him the overview of his condition. Alex listened intently. He seems to be suffering side effects. He has a lack of memory and he has aggressive tendencies, though those things will go away with treatment and therapy. His right arm was damaged in a way that he needs to re-strengthen it or he won't be able to pick up objects with it. His right eye is blind completely. We'd suggest removing it and replacing it with one that looks more not damaged. I would, but Alex's father sighed. I'm struggling with the bills as it is. I don't think I could afford another operation. I see. Alex glanced at his right arm. Damaged. Doesn't feel injured. He thought, clasping and unclasping his fingers. He looked at the purple plush on the table beside Stitch's. He reached out, putting his hand on it. He gripped, trying to lift it, but it slipped out of his hand. He looked at it, confused, trying again. Failing again. He tried again. He just couldn't seem to get it. It was like a claw machine. He gradually became more and more aggravated. Whatever, he growled, tossing the object harshly back onto the table. He turned around, seeing the doctor and his father watching him. Surprised, he looked to the floor, embarrassed. Silence followed for a few minutes, along with the sound of a pen scribbling on paper. Would you like to hear your friend's profile, Alex? The doctor asked, trying to be kind. Alex nodded. Very well, then. He walked over to where Stitches laid. In a very basic way of saying things, he took most of the brute force of the accident, considering he was one of the people closest to where you were hit. Most of the glass cuts were minor, except for a few scattered across his body, and the one that lodged itself into his head. His brain was shaken a bit. He also had damage to the throat. There was no other internal damage, but he's still in much worse condition than you were. So, how high of a chance does he have of waking up? The doctor sighed. Very, very low. But there's still that chance, Alex announced, hopeful. The doctor shook his head. Maybe, but just be prepared for the worst, he replied. Alex looked at his friend, very worried. He whispered to him, Please, be okay, Stitches. Raindrops thudded against the window. Alex watched, contemplating. He had been there for a while. He saw it, clearing up, and stood. His father walking in. You should get dressed, his father said. Alex looked at him slowly. Why? He asked sluggishly. The funeral is soon, son. Please. Alex sighed. Fine, he agreed, not arguing, disinterested. He headed upstairs and slipped on his best clothes before going out into the backyard. He walked to Stitch's house, knowing he would get yelled at because it would only eat up too much time. Even though it would only take 10 minutes, but the walk was quiet and nice. He thought to himself some of the way. The other amount of the way, his brain was just completely numb. He unexpectedly saw his father's car in the driveway, waiting for him. His father walked up to him, placing his hand on his back, trying to lead him to the car. I don't want to go, Alex mumbled. Son, please, his father replied, practically begging. Alex looked up at him sadly, disappointed in himself that he made someone who cared for him upset. Alex followed his father, not wanting to bother him any more. The drive was quiet. Alex was unsure why, as his father was usually talkative. Once there, Alex watched as, one by one, a handful of people came up to him to express how they felt about the matter. He was starting to feel unexpectedly sad. He glanced around, seeing a few people crying. He zoned out as the funeral ceremony continued. He didn't know how long he sat there, but it went by faster than expected. Suddenly, he was tapped out of his trance. His father showing him to the coffin, he assumed that it was the end of the meeting, and it was time for them to see the body for one last time. He hadn't been awake yesterday, so he hadn't been able to be at the viewing. He approached it, seeing the delicate form in the box. He gulped. Mom, he whispered, questioning. He had the urge to touch her, to see if she was real, to see if any of this was reality, but he was frozen. He watched as they shut the box and carried it out to the hearse. He was suddenly anxious to get to the burial. He hurried over to the car, ignoring the anxiety he felt inside from the vehicle, and impatiently waiting for his father to get in. After about 10 minutes, finally he slid in and started driving. Once there, he stumbled out and went to the grave. He watched as they lowered the black box into the ground before shoveling dirt on top. He observed as shovelful by shovelful his mother disappeared into the earth. He saw people place flowers and say things before moving away. Then there was no one at the grave. He gradually shuffled to it, looking down at the stone, reading the inscription. He sat on his knees, tracing the inscription with one finger. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he comprehended everything. His mother was gone. The nurse hadn't been lying, and neither had his father been. He would never see her again. No more warm hugs, no more hearing her sweet voice, no more mother. Tears dripped onto the ground, wetting the dirt beneath him as he sobbed quietly. All of the feelings that he had hidden deep inside came bursting out all at once. Too much for him to bear. His mother was gone. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked that video, make sure to hit like on it and share it with your friends. Otherwise, hit subscribe for more awesomeness from the channel.